Hello my friends, and welcome back to another video where recently an old discussion has resurfaced about why the Amazon show is currently called The Lord of the Rings. It has resurfaced after a quote came out from Elijah Wood's interview with Empire magazine where he said this, quote, "I find it very bizarre that they're calling it Lord of the Rings as a shorthand, because it's not Lord of the Rings. Technically, he is correct and also incorrect, and we will be discussing this in today's video. Is the title The Lord of the Rings suitable for the Amazon show, or is it lazy? Or is it only being used to help marketing? It could potentially just be a placeholder title, or is there an actual way that the title can be used? There are many factors to be discussed, so let's get into it. Firstly, let's start off with the context of the name itself. The Lord of the Rings is of course the overarching name of the entirety of the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King. Therefore, some may argue that the Amazon show can't be called that, as the name Lord of the Rings refers to the tale of Frodo, the Ring, and the story of Aragorn, etc., and most importantly, a story set in the Third Age. However, it can also be argued that the Lord of the Rings can fit the Second Age show as well, as technically Sauron/Anatar is effectively the Lord of the Rings. If the show will be adapting the tale of the Forging of the Rings and the War of the Elves and Sauron after the year 1500 of the Second Age, then the title Lord of the Rings could easily apply to the show, as it does make sense, as we'll probably see Sauron forging the One Ring and betraying Celebrimbor, and see him have dominion over all the other rings, except the three elven rings of course, therefore making him the Lord of the Rings. Overall, if the show will be depicting that time period, and if Sauron is heavily involved with the plot of the show, then the title Lord of the Rings can be used legitimately and be correct context-wise as well. Now moving on to the next point, which is that currently the Lord of the Rings is just a placeholder name, and that when the marketing for the show does start, a different name will be employed, and that the title Lord of the Rings will be abandoned. This could easily be the case, which means Mr. Elijah's worries would be solved. But I would say that it is interesting that 3 years into the production, we still haven't received a title for the show yet, but of course that could again all change. Also, on the lines of marketing, a reason why Amazon are currently sticking to the Lord of the Rings and may potentially call the show Lord of the Rings is because it would help marketing wise, as Lord of the Rings is a household name and it could attract casual fans, which would help the show with the popularity massively, which is why Amazon may stick to it. But creativity wise, this raises the argument of it being quite lazy, as the only reason it is being called Lord of the Rings is to attract casual fans, and the actual title Lord of the Rings may have no relevance to the events of the show. An alternate point is that Amazon may use The Lord of the Rings as an overarching title, but with each season having different subtitles. For example, a season could be called Lord of the Rings: Fall of Numenor, or Lord of the Rings: Forging of the Rings. Just like with the Jackson films, as the franchise was called The Lord of the Rings, but each separate movie had its own subtitles like Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, and Amazon could follow suit. But back to the question, why is Amazon currently calling the show The Lord of the Rings? They have used that name for the social accounts and current branding since 2019, but at the same time, since 2019, there's hardly been any marketing since the maps were released, and no real official news from Amazon itself except for the release of cast members, which means the full marketing cycle for the show has not yet begun, and when it does, then we will see what Amazon will do with the name, and that could be soon, as we are now into 2021. They could have easily kept the title The Lord of the Rings right now just to build attraction and get some initial exposure for the show, but when the marketing does begin, they can change the title completely. But the next question then is, when they start the marketing for the show, what will they make the title? Well, currently there is a few options and we have covered them all in today's video, but to just summarize, Amazon could use The Lord of the Rings as contextually for the show it makes sense. If they are confident in the power and effectiveness of their marketing campaign, then they could make a title without Lord of the Rings. Or what they could do, which I believe is most effective, is have The Lord of the Rings as an overarching title, but each season have its own subtitle relating to the events in that specific season. That may be best for Amazon as it works both ways, as they can use The Lord of the Rings for the marketing aspect and use the subtitles to help contextually. Alternatively, they could use Middle-earth instead as the title name, and that could easily work as well, and we saw this through the marketing of the Shadow of War game, where it was titled and branded Middle-earth Shadow of War. Some have put forward that potentially Middle-earth: The Second Age and names like that, which include Middle-earth, could easily work. Middle-earth does have some marketing pull which Amazon could use, but doesn't have as much marketing pull as The Lord of the Rings, of course. And it is the name of the universe. For example, with Harry Potter, the movies are in the Wizarding World universe, but the movies are not called the Wizarding World. And the same with the Marvel movies. They are all in the MCEU and the Marvel universe, but the movies don't have Marvel in the actual name. Finally, as I said earlier, this could just all be a placeholder name, and that is most likely the case. But thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. Please let me know in the comments below whether you agree or disagree with Elijah Wood's comments and what you think of the Lord of the Rings name so far being used by Amazon. Will they use it, or is it a placeholder? We will just have to wait and see. Please like and subscribe, but until the next video my friends, goodbye.